out my ingredients right now to mix up some dough. We have our flour. Now we need to measure out. Oh, wait. Yeah. Milk. We need some milk. I need the measuring. Oh, there it is. We need some milk. We need 138 grams of milk. $138. Ay. $138. $138. $138.2. That's as close as I'm gonna get it. Butter, milk. 10 seconds. And we need 42 grams of sugar. We're gonna use baker's sugar, also known as castor sugar. And we need 42 grams. 45. $42 even. Ooh, I love it when it's even. Okay, we have our sugar, our flour. Now we need 3.2 grams of yeast. 3.2. It's gotta be 3.2, come on. 2.9. 3.4. 3.4. 3.2. Boom. 3.2 of our yeast. I'm going to seal it back up and put it away. Put that in there. And now we need 2.2 grams of salt. 2.2. Oh, come on. Come on. No. Four 4.2. And that just, when it's so little, it starts to like blip out. Come on. Okay. 2.4. We're gonna call it because that's just ridiculous. Okay. 2.4. As close to 2.2 as we're getting today because our scale is being muy finicky today. Okay, so we have our flour, our sugar, our yeast, our salt in our bowl. We're gonna whisk it together so that all of our dry ingredients are incorporated together. And I like to make like a little bit of a well in the center. And now we're gonna get our thermometer. Hello. And we're gonna check our milk, which is at 64 right now. We want it at around 100. And we have our butter set aside. Take our temperature again. 78. Do another 10 seconds. This should be the one that gets us there, hopefully. We want to be careful with the temperature of our milk because we're using yeast, and yeast will be very finicky. Yeast is kind of like Goldilocks. It can be too hot or too cold. Which is why we want to check our temperature. We're getting there. 10 more seconds. More seconds. Hello. Hi, Lucy. So what I'm making today is enriched. Now it's a tad too warm, so we're gonna stick it in the freezer for like 2 seconds. We're going for an enriched dough today. So it's a dough that has milk and butter in it. And then once it's done its first proofing or its first rise, I'm gonna separate the dough, I'm gonna shape it into buns, and we will put this pistachio filling that I have left over from another previous batch of pistachio buns, which is why I'm making this, because we have pistachio filling to use. And so actually what I do is I use this mold. We're gonna do that next. And I pre-measure out my pistachio fillings so that we can get a little bit of consistency. Cute. So we're at around 100, which was our target of temperature. So we're gonna drop the milk into our dry ingredients. And then we're gonna take our hook and we're gonna let our hook do some of the work for us. So we're gonna drop that hook in, and at a low to medium speed, we're gonna let it do its thing. I'll be right back. This is where I like to bring in my handy dandy secret tool in baking, which is just a metal chopstick. So we're going to turn this off, and we're going to take our chopstick and just kind of work some of the ingredients that are on the sides of our bowl that are just not necessarily incorporating right away. So kind of give that a little shake. Drop our hook back in and let it do its work. And now I still see some dry ingredients on the sides of our bowl, but not as much. But we're gonna go ahead and just gently nudge that in with just by scraping the sides with our metal chopstick. It's like getting the wallflower to go get into the middle of the dance floor. Get in there, go dance. We're gonna want a little bit of a loose, shaggy dough, and then we'll start adding our butter in. But I want some of this flour to get a little bit more incorporated before we start throwing butter in here. All right. We have a little bit more of a shaggy dough, so we're gonna start throwing butter in there. So little by little, our butter that I cut into small little pats of butter so that they would soften faster, we just little by little throw them into mixer. Little by little, we get that butter in there. Little by little. It's getting shaggier and shaggier, but we don't have like a proper dough yet. It'll be a minute before we're at like proper dough stage. And then we're still gonna have to let it mix for a while. Little by little, we keep adding our butter. the last of our butter. So now our dough, our shaggy dough is getting a little bit more and more together, as you can see in our bowl. I can still see chunks of butter in there, but we're getting there. Alright, we're gonna let the machine just do its thing. I still see chunks of butter in there, so we still don't have a fully incorporated dough. But the hook is doing its thing. The hook is doing its job. Now it's starting to look more like an incorporated ball of dough hopping around in the bottom of our bowl. I still see a little bit of chunks of butter in there, but not as much. It's starting to look more and more like a ball of dough. It's going to be doing its thing for a while, but one sign to look for that I find helpful is when it starts to leave almost like a trail behind it. Like it starts to like grow like a tail and flap like a tail behind it around the bowl. That to me is like a visual marker that our dough is getting close to where we need it, where it's like stretching. Right now it's just still kind of like bopping around as a ball of dough. There's no more butter on the sides of our bowl. There's no more flour on the sides of our bowl. Now we just have a proper little ball of dough bouncing around and dancing with our bread hook. And the bread hook is just basically doing what our hands would be doing in terms of like kneading the dough. I still see little traces of butter being left behind in the bowl, so our dough is still incorporating. Oh, okay. One thing that we can do is measure out our pistachio for our buns later so that it can freeze. So I'm going to push this a little bit out the way so you can see what I'm doing. That's going to keep doing its thing. So we pull out our digital scale again. I got this candy silicone mold. We're going to tear it out. Now our scale is even. And we're going to take our pistachio frangipane filling that I already made, and we're shooting for between 21 and 22 grams per little segment that then is going to go into the freezer. So we push it out. $21.2. I'll take it. We want to make sure that nothing is it's even. Okay, 21 even. Okay, we even out the scale again. And let's take our little inside bag. Make sure that we're squeezing everything that we can. Squeeze that back. Get it back into our silicone sleeve. And now we push. 21.9, I'll take it. We even it out again. $19.2. 20.8, we'll take it. Even it out. And what I'm shooting is for 4 buns. I think I have more than enough for 4 buns. $22.2. All right. Dang it, I'm only making enough dough for 4 more. And I think I have enough for 1 more. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do an experiment. Sometimes it leaks and it spills over and it bakes into like almost like a little shell. I think I'm just gonna take this extra one and just bake it on the sheet and see what happens. We'll do it as a little experiment. See if it bakes out like a little cookie or something. All right, so we have our pistachio fillings molded out, portioned out. So now I'm gonna take this and put it in the freezer so these set while the dough is rising. And that way, when we bake them, they won't leak as much because I kept having trouble with them leaking out of the bun. So we put our scale back, get rid of our trash, get rid of the trash. And now let's look at our dough. So now my timer has about a minute left on for this first check. It's starting to leave a trail. Ooh, let's see if I can get the camera in there. You can kind of see that it starts to leave a little bit of a trail. That's a good visual marker that the dough is getting to the point that we want it. Another visual marker that we're going for is the window pane test. So that's what we're gonna do now. I'm gonna wash my hands really quick. Okay, with clean hands. Yeah, see, it's starting to leave like a trail of dough. So with clean hands, clean, dry hands, make sure they're dry. We're gonna check our dough, see our little dough ball. Take it off the hook. Let's take a chunk of dough and we're gonna stretch it out. And we should be able to make it thin, almost thin enough to see through it without breaking it. It's actually pretty darn close. It's not quite there, but it's pretty close. So we're gonna put that baby back in there. We're gonna drop our hook back down. We're gonna put it back at 4. This is a Cuisinart. And we're gonna set the timer for 2 more minutes. And we're gonna let that bop around in there for 2 more minutes. And again, our goal, what we're looking for is that window pane test, where you stretch out the dough and it almost gets thin enough that you can see through it without breaking. And that's when we know that our dough is where we want it to be for its first rise. Let's keep getting ready. So going to get a glass bowl ready. It's already washed. Make sure it's dry. Are we ready for our next window pane test? Who's ready? All right, let's try that again. Another marker is that it won't really stick to the hook. That's another visual marker that I've found that our dough has mixed. So we take another little chunk and also you'll notice it gets smoother, like the dough in general is just smoother. So we're stretching it out little by little, and you'll see the light starting to shine through. Our window pane. See how it's getting nice and thin, but it's not breaking? That's what we're looking for. So we're gonna give it 1 more minute. Feel free to say hi in the chat if you want to. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if you like to bake. All right, turn that puppy off. Take it off our hook. You know, I want it a little bit more. All right. See, nothing on our hook. Hello. All right. So we have our dough. Get it into a nice little ball. And we're gonna put it in our glass bowl and we're gonna cover it. Now there's a few options that we can do with this. We can let it rise 45 minutes and then shape it and bake it off. Another option is to let it rise for 45 minutes and then put it in the fridge to do some more bulk fermenting. And I could leave it in the fridge overnight and bake these off tomorrow, or bake them off a little bit later today, which is probably what I'm gonna do. So what I'm gonna shoot for right now is to put it on the counter for 45 minutes, then put it in the fridge, and then depending on how I'm feeling later, maybe we'll shape them and bake them off tonight, or shape them and bake them off tomorrow morning. But this is the beginning of the process for these pistachio buns. They're so good. It's one of my favorite things that I bake. It's me. I went to a bakery in London. I fell in love with these buns. I've spent the last 4 months trying to recreate them just off of tasting them and a couple of pictures. I'm actually hoping, I've been leaving this bakery so much love on social media, and they kind of mentioned that maybe next time I'm in London, maybe they'll let me come take a peek and hang out with their bakers, and maybe they'll give me some of the secret tips for how they shape this bun, because I've literally just been doing it off of vibes, trying to figure it out, and it's been trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. Thankfully, most of them have tasted really good, but I want it to look as visually impressive as they do at Lever and Bloom. Shout out Lever and Bloom in London. So yeah, so it's 10 to 2 my time here in California. I'm gonna write that down on our plastic. 1:40 p.m. and I'm gonna log back onto work. So that means I'm gonna have to say goodbye to you all for now. This is a last bit of cake that I baked. Hi, I'm MeMeCherry. I like to sometimes go live and hang out while I bake. Sometimes I go live while I'm rhinestoning things like labubus and garter belts and stockings and costume items. I'm slowly working on my Sabrina Carpenter costume for Halloween. So if that's something that you like, feel free to hit subscribe. YouTube is one of the few free forms of entertainment that we have in this economy, so feel free to hit that subscribe button. It's free. I also have a podcast. It's called Series of Fortunate Events. I actually just interviewed an amazing guest last night. I'm going to be working on that edit today to hopefully get it posted either today or tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Sophie Pod, SOFE. You can find that on this channel. And sometimes I like to do fitness content too. This weekend I went live while I was doing Pilates by the pool. So if any of that interests you, please hit subscribe. I'm gonna go back to work. I hope you all have a great day. I hope to see you again. And if this is the last time I see you, I hope you have a great life. Bye.